Welcome to Relaxed Reddit Readings. Today we have 4 Reddit stories for you. Reddit stories that will make you question everything. Story 1. My brother died and I didn't go to his funeral. So my brother died and I didn't go to his funeral, and now everyone thinks I'm a monster. Let me explain why this happened because it's eating me alive. I'm 30 and my brother was 34 when he passed. Over the last few years, our relationship had been falling apart. We constantly argued over the smallest things, and he was always making these snide remarks about me. At first, I just brushed it off, you know. Brothers fight, that's normal. But then he started doing it in front of my girlfriend, and that's when I realized how bad it had gotten. If we were talking about work, he'd say that at least one of us has a real career, obviously referring to himself. If money came up, he'd tell my girlfriend she was lucky to find someone who tolerates my financial issues. He always framed these comments as jokes, but they weren't funny. They were cruel and calculated to humiliate me. The final straw came during what would be our last conversation. We were at a family dinner, and he started his usual routine in front of everyone. My girlfriend, my parents, my aunt and uncle, all watching as he tore me down piece by piece. When I finally stood up for myself and told him to stop, he laughed and said I was being too sensitive, that I couldn't take a joke. That night, I made a decision. I told him I was done, that I didn't want him in my life anymore if this was how he was going to treat me. He just shrugged and said fine, that he didn't need a loser brother anyway. That was 3 months before the accident. He died in a car crash on a rainy Thursday morning. My mom called me, sobbing, telling me I needed to come home for the funeral. But I couldn't do it. I know it sounds heartless, but I couldn't stand there and pretend to mourn someone who spent years systematically destroying my self-esteem. I couldn't listen to people talk about what a wonderful person he was when I knew the truth about how he treated me. My family is furious. They say blood is thicker than water, that I should have been the bigger person, that death changes everything. My mom won't speak to me. My dad sends these disappointed text messages. My girlfriend is torn because she saw how he treated me, but she also thinks I should have gone to support my parents. The thing is, I don't regret my decision. I'm sad that my brother died, I'm sad that we never got to reconcile, but I'm not sorry for protecting myself from more abuse, even posthumously. People keep telling me I'll regret this forever, that family is family no matter what. But honestly, the relief I felt when I realized I'd never have to endure another one of his cruel comments was stronger than any grief. Maybe that makes me a terrible person, I don't know. Was I wrong to skip my own brother's funeral, even after everything he put me through? If you're enjoying these stories, hit that like button and let me know in the comments which story you relate to the most. Story 2. Kids stole my free drinks so I called their grandma. So I work at a beverage company, and sometimes when drinks are about to expire, we're allowed to take them home. Pretty sweet deal, right? Well, I decided to be nice and share the wealth with my neighbors. I've lived in this apartment complex for a year and a half, and I thought it'd be cool to build some community spirit. I stacked multiple cases of drinks outside my apartment with a little note saying help yourself. For months, this worked perfectly. Everyone was respectful, took what they needed, and left plenty for others. It was this beautiful little system of sharing that honestly made me feel good about where I lived. Then these kids moved in. 2 little boys who I'd guess were around 10 and 12 years old. At first, they were taking reasonable amounts, maybe 2 or 3 drinks at a time. But then they started getting greedy. I'm talking about them coming by multiple times a day, loading up their arms with as many drinks as they could carry. I watched from my window as they'd make trip after trip, like they were stocking a convenience store. The final straw came when I put out 2 full cases on a Friday evening. By Saturday morning, they were completely gone. Not a single drink left for any of the other neighbors who had been respectfully sharing this resource for months. I was furious, but I didn't want to confront children directly. That seemed inappropriate and potentially problematic. So I did some detective work and found out they were staying with their grandmother in Unit 4B. I decided to have a polite conversation with her about the situation. When I knocked on her door and explained what was happening, she was mortified. Turns out, she had no idea her grandsons were basically hoarding my free drinks. She immediately called the boys over and made them apologize to me right there on the spot. She also made them return about 15 drinks they had stockpiled in their apartment. The grandmother was actually really cool about it. She explained that the boys' parents were going through a rough divorce and the kids were staying with her temporarily. She promised to have a serious talk with them about sharing and being considerate of others. But here's where it gets interesting. Some of my neighbors think I overreacted. One person told me I was being petty for getting kids in trouble over free drinks. Another said I should have just talked to the kids directly instead of going to their grandmother. They're acting like I'm some kind of monster for wanting to maintain fairness in our little sharing system. But I don't see it that way. These kids were old enough to understand right from wrong. They knew other people were also taking drinks, and they chose to be selfish anyway. If I hadn't said something, they would have kept doing it, and eventually I would have stopped sharing altogether. Then nobody would benefit. The grandmother thanked me for bringing it to her attention because she wants to raise considerate kids. Since our conversation, the boys take 1 drink each per day, max, and they even started saying hi to me in the hallway. So the system is working again, everyone's happy, and those kids learned a valuable lesson about sharing. Was I really wrong for letting their grandmother know what was happening? Story 3. My gaming income isn't a temporary hobby, and I'm tired of pretending. So my cousin just asked me to call my 6-figure income a temporary hobby, and I absolutely lost it. Here's what happened. I make my living through online game markets. I know that sounds weird to most people, but hear me out. I work with MMO economies, digital goods trading, character leveling, and basically any service I can provide within the games I play. And before you roll your eyes, let me tell you something, this isn't some kid living in his mom's basement situation. I pay taxes, rent my own place, just bought myself a really nice car, and I'm saving money for the future. My income has been growing steadily for several years now. This is a legitimate business that I've built from the ground up. It takes real skills, market knowledge, customer service abilities, and crazy amounts of dedication. I work long hours, I have regular clients, I manage multiple revenue streams, and I'm constantly learning new games and market trends. It's exactly like any other freelance business, except my office happens to be online gaming worlds. So last week, I drove my new car to a family barbecue. It's nothing too fancy, but it's definitely a nice vehicle that I saved up for and bought outright. My cousin Sarah immediately started asking questions about how I could afford it. Fair enough, family's curious, I get it. I explained that my gaming business has been doing really well, and I've been saving up for this purchase for months. That's when things got weird. Sarah looked uncomfortable and said that's great, but when other family members ask, could I maybe just say it was from a temporary hobby? She was worried that if I talked about making money from gaming, it would give her teenage son the wrong idea about career choices. She wanted me to downplay my success so her kid wouldn't think he could skip college and just play games for money. I was honestly speechless. She was asking me to lie about my legitimate business because she was worried about how it might influence her parenting. I told her absolutely not. This isn't a hobby, it's my career. I'm not going to pretend I'm unsuccessful or that this is just some phase I'm going through. Her son is smart enough to understand that building a business takes years of work and isn't guaranteed success for everyone. But she kept pushing. She said I was being selfish and that I should understand her position as a mother. She even suggested that I could just say I had some freelance work online without mentioning the gaming part. The more she talked, the angrier I got. Why should I have to hide my achievements? Why should I be ashamed of finding success in an unconventional field? I've worked incredibly hard to build this business, and I'm proud of what I've accomplished. I told Sarah that I wouldn't be lying about my career to make her parenting easier. If she's worried about her son's life choices, that's a conversation she needs to have with him, not something I need to manage by pretending to be unsuccessful. Now half the family thinks I'm being stubborn and unreasonable. They're saying it's not a big deal to just keep quiet about the gaming aspect, and that I should be more understanding of Sarah's concerns as a parent. But I think I'm being asked to diminish myself for no good reason. Am I really being unreasonable for refusing to call my successful business a temporary hobby? Story 4. I got my neighbor's car towed and now they're furious. So I got my neighbor's partner's car towed and now the whole street thinks I'm some kind of monster, but honestly, I think I was completely justified. Let me tell you what happened. I came home Friday night around 7 p.m. to find a car parked across 3/4 of my driveway. I couldn't get my car in, but since there was easy street parking available, I decided to be nice about it. I left a polite note on their windshield explaining that they were blocking my driveway and asking them to move it. Saturday morning rolls around, and the car is still there. I live on a dead-end street, so most of us neighbors know each other and each other's cars pretty well. I spent the day asking around to see if anyone knew whose car it was. Nobody had a clue. Saturday afternoon, I had to run some errands, and when I came back, the car was still blocking my driveway. At this point, I'm starting to get annoyed, but I figured maybe they just hadn't seen my note. So I wrote another one, this time a little more direct, explaining that I needed access to my own driveway. Sunday morning, still there. Now I'm genuinely frustrated because I'm having to park on the street and walk extra distance to my house because someone is blocking my own driveway. I decided to give it until evening before taking any action. Sunday evening, the car hadn't moved an inch. That's when I called the towing company. I felt bad about it, but come on, it had been there for 3 full days blocking my driveway despite my polite notes. The car got towed Sunday night. Monday morning, all hell broke loose. Turns out it belonged to my neighbor Janet's new boyfriend. She came storming over to my house absolutely furious, demanding to know why I didn't just knock on her door. Here's the thing though, I did ask around, including knocking on her door Saturday, but nobody was home. She claimed she was out of town for the weekend and her boyfriend was supposed to park in her assigned spot, but he parked in my driveway by mistake because it was dark. She's demanding that I pay the towing fees because it was an honest mistake and I should have tried harder to figure out whose car it was. I told her that's not my responsibility. It's not my job to hunt down the owner of a car that's illegally parked on my property. I left 2 polite notes giving them plenty of opportunity to move it. 3 days is more than reasonable. But now half the neighborhood is taking sides. Some people think I should have been more patient, especially since it was apparently an innocent mistake by someone who doesn't know the area well. Others are saying I was completely within my rights to have it towed from my own driveway. Janet's boyfriend had to pay over $200 to get his car back, and he's pretty upset about it. Janet keeps saying I could have prevented all of this by just being more proactive about finding the owner. But honestly, why is that my problem? If you park in someone's driveway for 3 days, getting towed is a natural consequence. I gave them multiple chances to fix the situation voluntarily. The towing company told me that 3 days is actually pretty generous, that most people call after 24 hours. So now I'm wondering, was I really too harsh here, or were my neighbors just being inconsiderate? If you enjoyed these stories, drop a comment telling me which one was your favorite. And if you want more relaxed Reddit readings, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed these stories, like, comment and subscribe for more relaxed Reddit readings.